welcome to my channel. You have heard so many people saying triple constraints. If a project is well managed, it must deliver the triple constraints, referring to time, costs, and scope. I can tell you that is not always the case. What's the purpose of running a project which is going to produce a substandard product or result? What is the purpose of producing a product which is unusable? What is the purpose of producing a product which is not fit for purpose? Even if it was produced within the timelines, it was produced within the budget. So what is the purpose of that product? So quality is one of the constraints you have to consider in a project. A project cannot be considered to be successful when the quality process was not done properly. In this video, I'm going to take you through what you need to understand in terms of quality management in a project environment or in a program environment. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified program and project manager. This is the channel I use to help aspiring project managers and practicing project managers to succeed. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the concept of quality management in a project environment or program environment. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to my channel. Have you ever heard so many people saying that the best way to manage a project is to deliver within timeline, within the costs or budget, and also within the scope? They normally use the term triple constraints to refer to time, scope, and also budget. I can tell you that is not always true. There is a fourth constraint that must be considered in any project environment or program environment. This is called quality. So you cannot say, I want to deliver a project within time, within cost, within scope, and it's poor quality. What is the purpose of producing a product which is poor quality? What is the purpose of producing a product which is substandard? What is the benefit of producing a product which is not fit for purpose? So this is where quality comes in a project setup or project environment. So welcome to the quality management process in a project. Let's get started. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel, and it will also help this channel to grow. So let's start by looking at quality management in general. Why do you need quality in a project? Why do you have to manage quality in a project? The main purpose of managing quality in a project is for you as a project manager. You as a project manager, you want to close a project that has produced something that is acceptable to the users. There is no value in producing something that is not fit for purpose to the users. It won't be accepted and your project will not be considered to be successful. So it is very, very important as a project manager to make sure that you are incorporating quality management in your project. So you might be asking, or you might be wondering, at what point are you supposed to incorporate quality? Quality management is normally defined during the initiation stage of the project. You have gone through the mandate process, you have gone through the project startup process, you are now in the project initiation stage. So this is the stage which you are going to define how you are going to manage quality from the beginning of the project all the way up to the end of the project. So how are you going to do it? There are certain aspects that have to be done first before you start considering quality. One of the first important points you have to do is what is called product description or product definition. So what do we mean by this? I'm going to expand it for you. So like in my experience, what I normally do as a project manager, I do what is called product-led planning. So what does it mean? I start by defining the products in a project. You might be wondering, what are products in a project? Products in a project are nothing other than the deliverables, the things that we are going to create from the beginning of the project up to the end of the project. It might be a document, it might be software, it might be a physical item like a building or even a floor or a tile. It could be a bridge. Whatever project you're working on, there must be some specific items or things or products or deliverables that you create throughout the project. So if you start by defining them towards the end result or the end product that you're aiming in that project, that is very, very important. It also helps you to incorporate the quality measures in that product. So the first thing that you have to do is to identify all the products. After identifying all the products, you also identify the sequence of how the products are going to be produced. Once you have identified the sequence, you go deeper into defining the products. So you're going to capture items like product description, the quality method, how are you going to measure the quality of the product, any boundaries, upper or lower boundaries of your quality. You're also going to define the acceptance criteria. This is very, very important. By the time the product is finished, someone must accept it as finished. But how do they accept it as finished? They have to go through the quality method. They have to go through the quality controls to make sure that the product satisfies what they need. That is very, very important. So the next part we are going to discuss is on the quality tolerance. So it depends on the type of project that you're running. It also depends on the type of result, service, or product that you intend to produce. There are certain projects where quality is actually a must or is first priority. I'll give you a good example. Do you think someone who is creating an air traffic control system and someone who is creating probably a plastic container or plastic packaging item, or someone who is running a project to create a writing pad, I don't think the level of quality involved is the same. So quality depends on the project and what you're working on. The air traffic control system that I'm talking about, there is no way you can play around with quality. There's no way you can play around with quality because it will affect the lives of human beings. So it is better for you, even if it's going to extend, it's going to be over budget, but it's better for you to have it go through or go past the deadline, and then at the end of the day, you produce the right quality. As compared to someone who is working on a project to produce a writing pad, they can compromise quality because writing pad is not going to affect someone's life, it's not going to affect environment. There are a lot of items that you have to take into consideration when it comes to quality. It all depends on the type of project that you're running. For me, I've been running even software projects before. Quality is very important. I can tell you, it is easier for users to forget something that is working properly, even if it was delayed or even if it was over budget, as compared to a project which is actually of poor quality, delivered on time, delivered within budget, but users are still complaining. They'll still complain even 3 or 4 years after that. But if it was good quality, they'll forget about all these budget overruns. They'll forget about all these timelines that were exceeded. So I would advise you that you should always incorporate quality in a project management process. That is very, very important. And it must be done from the beginning all the way up to the end of the project. So in this section, we're going to look at what normally affects the quality of products or deliverables in a project. So the first one comes from the customer satisfaction or customer acceptance criteria. If a certain product is very strict in terms of quality, definitely as a project manager, what you have to include or to incorporate in a quality management process, it has to be of higher value. Because if you don't do that, the client is going to reject the item. Once that item is rejected by the client, then it means the whole project has failed. So customer requirements or customer satisfaction, customer criteria, they are very important when it comes to quality in a project management scenario. You also have to make sure that you have understood the expectation from the customer. You have understood the acceptance criteria from the customer. If you have understood that, it becomes very easy as a project manager to incorporate it, especially in your project planning process. In a project planning process, you might consider the quality tests. You might even consider the quality, I normally call them checkpoints in my projects, where, for example, after delivering a project to a certain extent, you want things to be checked. You want quality control items to be done. So it's very, very important that you are very clear in terms of customer expectations, acceptance criteria. Then, the next item you also have to consider when it comes to the quality management in a project is your project approach. I've done a video on project approaches. You can also check it on my channel for additional information. So what do we mean by project approach? I'll give you simple examples. For example, when it comes to software, you might not want to do the project, or you might not want to produce the product from scratch. So as an approach to your project, you might decide to go for open source softwares. Open source, what do we mean by this? The software is already running, but probably it's not satisfying your requirements. So you take the software, you adjust it based on your requirements, and then you deploy it into production. You can also decide to go for what is called an off-the-shelf system. So in a project, it might require a certain system. Say, for example, you want a system that is going to help you to manage the finances in a project. So you might go for an off-the-shelf product instead of creating one financial management product. So that is the project approach that we are talking about. On the project approach, we can even look at resources. Are you going to use internal resources or you're going to use external resources? That also determines the type, the level, and the kind of quality management process that you're going to follow in a project. Say, for example, you have decided to outsource the production of some of your deliverables, and the expectation is wherever you're going to assign, or whoever you're going to assign to help you on that particular product, they might try to consider their own internal standards, their own safety issues, and so on and so forth. So you're no longer going to be bound to do a lot of quality management in your project because you have outsourced that particular item. So it is very important for you to appreciate the project approach. Project approach is what is going to determine your quality management process in your project. That is very important. You must take note of that as a project manager. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel, and it will also help this channel to grow. In this section of the video, I'm going to take you through the quality management strategy document. This is the document that is normally produced during the initiation stage, and it has to come before any project planning activities in the initiation stage. The reason being that you might want to plan for the quality management processes, quality methods, quality records, or deliverables that you have to consider in the project. So let's dive in. So when you're preparing a quality management document, or when you're preparing your quality management strategy, the first thing that you have to make sure you've captured is the introduction. You are supposed to introduce whoever is going to use the document. What is the purpose of the document? What are the objectives of the document? What is going to be the format of the document? So that is to form part of your introduction to the quality management strategy document. The second part is going to be the quality management procedure. This is very important. You need to define in your strategy, how is quality going to be incorporated in your project? How are you going to identify quality items? How are you going to measure? How are you going to close quality items? How are you going to make sure that the error sheets, they are also recorded? So it's very important that you define the quality management procedure in your quality management strategy document. So the next item is to consider the quality planning in your strategy. How are you going to plan the quality management process? I can tell you it can never be done once. Quality management is a process that you have to take through from the beginning of the project all the way up to the end of the project. So the first point, or the first entry you're going to meet the requirements for quality control, quality management, is beginning of stage and also end of stage. Some they want to call it a phase or end of phase. So normally quality planning is done at 3 different levels, like any project plan. You start at project level, and then you also go at team level. That is very, very important, okay? So quality planning is also done mainly in a project for 2 levels, based on my experience. The first level is at project level, then the second level is at team planning level. So you find most of the team plans, they come out when you are in a stage or in a phase of a project. So it is very, very important that you make sure that you have this quality plan in place, especially before the start of a phase, because every phase is normally going to have some deliverables or some products that you have to create throughout the project. So how are you going to measure the quality of those products? How are you going to ensure that the products, they are meeting the required standards? Even if they have finished, you still need to make sure that there's quality check, there's quality control on these products. So quality planning must be part of your strategy. So what are you planning? You're planning on how and when are you going to do the quality management? When are you going to do the quality process? When are you going to do the quality control in a project? That is very important. So the other section in your quality strategy document is to make sure that you have defined the quality controls. What do we mean by quality control? Quality control is different from quality assurance. You should take note of that. Quality assurance is normally the audit from external to the project or even external to the organization. But when you're talking of quality control, these are the members or stakeholders who are involved in the project throughout the production of end deliverables. So we are talking of 2 ways of doing quality control. The first one being what is called in-process quality control, which means the products are being checked as they are being produced. So you check them one by one. For example, say you are producing a certain metallic parts of a machine. Obviously, one of the in-process quality checks is to have some engineers coming with some calipers just to measure, say for example, the diameter of the part, or even the length of the part, the thickness of the part, even the weight. So these are what are called in-process quality controls, which means as you move from one stage to the other, someone is checking what you're doing. This is a very important process, especially if you're not able to redo the results, you're not able to redo the service, if you're not able to redo the production of the product. So it is better that you don't move very far for you to discover that there's a problem. You can move slowly, step by step, having some acceptance criteria being checked as part of your quality control activities, and then you move on. The next part of quality control, the next category of quality control is what is called appraisal process. So what do we mean by appraisal? Appraisal is normally what comes after the product is finished, which means if you were, for example, creating some specific plastic container, as an example, someone will measure the thickness, someone is going to measure the weight, the length also of that particular product. But it is towards the end. So it's also normally done in two sections. The first one is what is called objective, which means you are doing an objective measurement based on the project. It means you are doing an objective measurement based on the product. And also, this can be measured. It's based on facts. For example, someone is going to ask you, is it 5 centimeters? Is it 2 kgs? Is it 8 kgs? So that is measurable, and you can record that as part of your quality management process. Then the second part of the appraisal process is subjective in most ways. Say, for example, the project was supposed to produce a certain healthy drink, for example. If someone is going to be asked, can you test, is it tasty? Is it sweet? Is it sour? So those are some of the subjective quality control or quality measurement items that you can put in a project. However, the subjective ones, they are, like the name says, they are subjective. Someone might test it sour, someone might test it sweet. So at the end of the day, based on the acceptance criteria of the client, you might also invite the client to also do some tests to accept if that particular drink is good for them. So that is the second part of what is called appraisal process. So quality control in a project is very important, and it's normally in two parts: in process, quality control, and appraisal, quality control. So the next item you need to consider in your quality management strategy is the tools and techniques. So as a project manager, you have accepted, you have agreed that you need to incorporate quality control or quality measurement or management in your project. You also need to define what tools are you going to use. For example, if it's a physical product, obviously you need some ways to measure, for example, the length, the weight, and the height. So if you are to measure the weight, definitely you need something like a scale to measure that. If it was software, for example, you might want some testing tools, say, for example, for security. You want to test for security. You want to test even for speed or what is called performance, as an example. So it's very important that you define early in the initial stage of the project what quality tools and techniques are you going to use. Is it something that is going to be automated in terms of quality checks? Is it something that is going to be semi-automated? Or is it something that is going to be manual? So your techniques must be very clear. You shouldn't be guessing when it comes to management, when it comes to measuring of those quality items. It must be defined from the beginning of the project, especially on the tools. If you don't define the tools, you're going to realize that by the time you're about to do the quality management, you don't have the right tools to do that. That might end up delaying the project. So it is very important that you consider that. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel, and it will also help this channel to grow. The next item is also on the records of the quality management process. It must be part of your strategy. What records are you going to have as part of your quality management process? For example, you might have what are called test scripts. Some they want to call them test logs, as an example. You might also have records like error sheets. In terms of error, how are you going to record them? You also have that. And also you're going to have, for example, your quality register. Are you going to make it electronic? Are you going to make it physical? Is it going to be local to your network? Is it going to be in the cloud? So it is also very important that you are very sure of how you are going to do the recordings of quality in your project. So the next item that is expected in your quality management strategy is reporting. There is no way you can just have quality management activities which are not reported, especially to the project board. They want to understand and they want to know how the quality management is being applied in the project. So you might find one or two board members who might be interested in knowing, in terms of quality, how are you actually doing it in your project? Can you demonstrate to us? Can you show us? Can you give us some assurance that quality management is being done and whatever the project is running on is going to produce what is required? So how do these board members, for example, get to know about this? You do it through reporting. What I normally do in my projects is each and every reporting frequency, say for example it's weekly or monthly, I always try to put either one document or one slide specifically focusing on quality. And I would advise you to do the same. Most people, they tend to forget about quality because they're focusing more on cost, timelines, and probably scope. But you find that with time, it's very important that you also have a way to report on quality. I can tell you from my experience, if you don't focus, if you don't stand your ground on quality management in a project, quality is the first casualty of any project pressures. It is the easy target for each and every project pressure. Say for example, your project is no longer going to be seen to be delivered within the same budget. You might end up being forced to compromise on quality and assuming that you sort it out later. And you find so many people agreeing to that idea. We want our products to have 5 acceptance criteria. Someone will start suggesting that even 3 is okay. You can take it and then we'll sort things later. So my advice is you should always stand your ground as a project manager when it comes to quality management. Always make sure that you incorporate, no matter how small the project is, no matter how big the project is. What only differs is the level of quality management that you do. If it's something that is a quick and dirty project, of course you are not expected to spend more time on quality, but you should at least do some quality management in that small project. That is very critical and that is very, very important. So, the next point is also on the timing of the quality management activities. It is very crucial as a project manager that you define early how, who, and at what point are you going to do the quality management. Remember, you want to incorporate quality management activities in your plan. How are you going to incorporate it if you don't know when it's going to be done? Say, for example, you want to incorporate quality management activities before the start of any stage, and probably it's going to take another week or 2. So that time impact on a project planning is very important to consider. So always make sure that the timing of quality activities, they are defined. In some cases, you might find some of these quality activities might require external people to the organization or even external entities to the organization. I can give you a good example. Suppose you are constructing a 5-story building. You might be forced to bring in local inspectors or local board inspectors who are going to look at the building, who are going to inspect whether you're using the right materials, whether in terms of safety even of the employees, is it there? In terms of the environment, is it okay? So imagine you have not considered the quality or the timing of these quality management activities. You want to book for that local board authority or inspectors to come, they tell you they are fully booked for the next 2 or 3 months. So you'll be stuck as a project manager. But if you identify from the beginning, what are the quality management activities? Who are the stakeholders? Who is going to do that? At what time? You'll find it becomes very easy. Even your planning becomes very realistic, and you can also deliver the project on time. Last but not least, on your quality management strategy is the roles and responsibilities. I need to expand on this. So you have already identified the acceptance criteria from the user or the beneficiaries of the project. You have also identified the quality methods that you're going to use in the project. You have even identified the boundaries, whether lower or upper boundary of the acceptance or the tolerance that you're going to have for the product. And you have also identified the frequency and also the timing of the quality management activities. The most important item now is to define the roles and responsibilities. In the quality management process as a whole, who is going to be responsible for what? For example, what I normally do in my project, when it comes to quality management strategy document, as a project manager, I'm responsible. When it comes to some technical products which are supposed to be produced in the project, definitely I'll give it to my workstream lead for technical section. They're going to be responsible for that. So roles and responsibility for quality management activity is very important in a project. And you must define it as early as project initiation stage, so that the rest of the other stages, you're just following up to make sure that there's execution to that. Have you ever asked yourself, how do you manage, how do you follow up, and how do you ensure that you have the right quality management activities in a project? Don't worry. In this video, I'm going to take you through one of the 3 registers that you produce during the initiation stage is called quality register. So let's dive in. It is very important that after identifying all the quality management activities, or when you have completed your quality management strategy, you define a register called the quality register. Quality register has got an advantage in a project that you have to make sure that each and every quality management activity is recorded with responsibilities as to who is supposed to make sure it's done. It is going to help you not to skip any required quality management activities. I've heard some other projects, people discussing from their experience or from their previous projects, that they were not aware they were supposed to be doing a certain quality activity by a certain date. Then I was wondering, and I was asking them, how come you go into a project, you're a project member, you don't even know when you're supposed to check for a certain quality activity? There must be something wrong. And the problem is the project did not have a quality register. So quality register is very, very important. You should have it in your project. It's going to record a number of items, and I'm going to take you through those specific sections of a quality register. One of the most important information you have to capture in a quality register is your quality identifier. Every item in your quality register must have an identifier, or ID, or reference. So that when you're talking to so many people, assuming it's a shared document, you want people to go to exactly what quality item are you referring to. So you have a number, you have a serial number. You might call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's up to you. You might even put an alphanumeric code. It's all up to you. But at the end of the day, there must be a unique reference to identify each and every quality item that you are considering in a project. So the next one is product identifier. Your quality item should be linked back to the product or deliverable in your project. There's no way you can have quality being done on a product and you're not aware which product. So it must be well documented so that when you want to refer someone or anyone who is in the project or is also outside the project, you are very clear on what they're supposed to look at. You tell them product number 64, product number ABCD is what you're talking about here, and that is the one which must be quality checked. All the methods should be applied on it. So the identifier of the product is very important. You should always capture the product title so that it's linked to the product ID. At the end, it's also linked to the quality ID. People should be able to see the code of the product and also the description of the product. Remember, you have already done the product description as part of your quality management process. So you take that description, you put it in your quality register. The next section in your quality register that you have to consider is the method. How are deliverables going to be measured in terms of quality? How are the products in your project going to be measured in terms of quality? Are they going to be measured internally? Are they going to be measured externally? That is very important. If you don't record that information, obviously you're not going to plan for it, and it's going to be very difficult for you to deliver the project because, say for example, it requires external inspectors. You won't be able to deliver. You have to get the timelines from the inspectors, you incorporate it in your plan. So you should be able to define what are the methods that you are going to use to make sure that the quality activity is actually done. So the next item is the roles and responsibilities. So if you have got a specific quality activity in your project, you must make sure that you have defined the roles and responsibility. It could be owned by someone within the project, or it could be owned by someone outside the project. But make sure there's someone who is owning that quality management activity, and you put it in your register. The advantage of doing that is, remember, you know the timing of this quality management activity. So if you have someone who is owning that, you can either send a reminder earlier than the date, or you can even ask them to provide their plan or strategy before the actual activity has been done. Even if, like what I've seen in some of my projects, I have to balance the work. Because someone who was already doing something in the project is now being required to do some quality checks. So I have to pull out that person and replace with someone else. So it also helps you in terms of resource reallocation or workload balance in a project. So it is very important that you give that responsibility in a project. So the next one is dates or time. It does not make sense to have a quality register owned by someone in terms of roles and responsibilities, and also which has got a specific method or identifier or even product title. You still have to make sure that there's a specific date. That is what I'm calling timing. Time is very important of quality activities. And whatever you're putting in your quality register, it must flow all the way to the project plan. in terms of dates. When are you going to do the quality activity is very important. It could be dates, it could be time, but it has to be very specified so that you always get reminded as a project manager as you go through the register, maybe once a week or once a day, depending on the type of the project, or once a year, or even once a month, depending on the type of the project. So it will remind you as to when are you supposed to revisit, when are you supposed to remind people of the planning activities that have to be done in a project. So you must always record the date and even. Time is optional, but date is not optional. You have to specify at what date are you going to start the quality management activities. That is very important. It must be in the register. The next item is the result of the quality activity. So you have a register, you have an item for quality activity. What is going to be the expected result of that? And there are some which are not going to meet the criteria, maybe first pass or first time. How are you going to make sure that they are also rechecked? So it is very, very important also to consider that. It is also very important to consider the result of the quality management activities on your quality register. So you should always record it as a project manager. And as a project manager, you are normally the one who owns the quality register. You are the one who is supposed to be following up with all project team members. It could be vendors, it could be contractors. You have to make sure that they have to deliver according to the quality register, especially in terms of timing. So the expected result, you should always have it before you even start the activities on the quality management process. So the next part of it, or the last part that you have to consider in the quality register, is also the quality records. It's very important that you record all the quality activities, especially when it comes to error sheets. Error sheets, they are nothing but a record of what was tested, what is passed, what is not passed, and why it failed. When is it going to be rectified? How are you going to retest, and when are you going to retest? So quality records, they are also very important. However, I would advise you that if there are certain quality documents which are outside the project, but you are able to reference them, there's no need for you to bring them into the quality register. You just make a reference either to the organizational standards or even international standards. Just make a reference of them on the register so that if someone is going to go through the register, what they have to do is they take the reference, they go to the specific document, they read it. Otherwise, if you try to bring all the documents, the reference documents into the quality register, it's going to be very big. So you shouldn't be doing that. In addition to this video, I've also created a quality management checklist, which you can download in the link below this video. So quality review in a project is very important. Have you ever asked yourself, how do you actually do the quality review process in a project? Don't worry, in this video, I'm going to take you through all that you need to do a quality review in a project. So let's dive in. Quality review in a project is very, very important. You don't just create a strategy document and then that's it. You also need to have a time for review of the quality. Why do you have to do this? You want to make sure that you bring together the ones who are building the products and also those who are going to accept the product. So that brings up to a meeting called quality review meeting. It actually has 4 participants. The first one being the chair. So you need someone who has got experience in chairing the meetings so that he can facilitate the discussion between those who are building the product and those who are testing and those who are going to accept the product. So the chairperson of that review committee or review meeting is very, very important. And you must put someone who is mature enough to balance views from both sides, not someone who's going to be biased. Then the next responsibility or role, the next role is going to be presenter. So a presenter is someone who is knowledgeable in the product. Is someone who is going to be able to explain to those who are going to use the product what has been done, how is it going to be done, and how is it meeting the criteria. So a presenter should be someone who is also ready to get some criticism. It's very unusual that you produce something, everyone is happy, you sign off and then you move on. In some cases, you find there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of sentiments, there's a lot of critique on your product. So you want a presenter, someone who is mature, someone who is experienced enough to tolerate what might be coming from those who are going to be using the product. So this is a very important role, and you must make sure that you have selected the right person. The third role is going to be the users or the reviewers. These are the people, or this is a group of people which is going to be using the product. They are the end product beneficiaries. So they have to be part of that product review or quality review. Why are they going to be invited? They are going to give feedback. They are going to go through whatever you produce, whether it's a document, whether it's a service, whether it's a physical product. They're going to go through it, inspect it, and then give feedback. But you still have to manage it, like what we discussed on the presenter. I know, like one of the projects I was running, I had 2 youngsters who were very ambitious. They started attacking the presenter, and then at the end of the day, the presenter became defensive. That was not going to help the project. So I had to call the meeting to order. That a quality review project, I had to call the meeting to order. That the quality review meeting was to discuss, present what is there, get feedback from those who are going to use the product, and then improve from there. So you need to balance. Normally, if a presenter is attacked by the reviewers, they become very defensive. And it's very natural that if someone is being told what you have done is not correct, they will try to justify. So if you're going to be the chair for that particular meeting, make sure you balance views from both sides. Then the last one is the administrator. I always advise project managers that you should have a project administrator. Someone who is responsible for taking minutes, someone who is responsible for noting down action items, very important items. So this is one of the roles you need to invite into your quality review meeting, so that they take note of all the discussions, they take note of all the important points, follow-up activities or follow-up actions, so that this meeting becomes very productive and you can see results after the project. You can see the results after the meeting. So there are basically 3 outcomes that are expected from a quality review meeting. The first one is, it could be that the presenter has done exactly what was requested by the reviewers or the end users. Everyone is happy, you sign off, and then you go. But I can tell you, rarely do you find such scenarios. In most scenarios, there is a lot of disagreements, which brings us to the second category. There could be some reviews in the meeting. Well, people might be agreeing to a certain extent for some features of the product or some use of the product, and they might have some changes. They could be minor, but there are changes they are requesting that be done by the presenter or the supplier, whoever is producing that product. So that is the second category. The product is not that bad, but you still have some minor changes to do. So the administrator has to record those minor changes so that next time they are also checked against what is required. Then the last one is the most common one, I can tell you, is where the product is produced. There are major issues to be changed. There are so many complaints from the reviewers. They've criticized the way it was done. They've criticized what they are seeing. So what it means, it has to be either a revamp or rework on the product. It could be one of the outcomes, and it's a very common outcome, especially when it comes to software. It's very unusual that you produce exactly what people are expecting. People expect different features in a product. So when you present to them, they must start telling you, no, this is not doing the way I want. Can it be working like another software I know? For example, can it work like Excel? Can it work like SAP? Whatever they want to discuss there. So this is one of the most common scenarios where after the presentation, there isn't too much agreement. There are so many major changes to be done. So as a chair of the project or chair of that review meeting, you should be able to manage, you should be able to balance views from both sides. It is also good in terms of quality management in a project environment. If you want me to create more videos based on the ideas, the concepts, or any of the points that we have discussed earlier, or you want me to clarify, you need any clarifications, let me know in the comment section below.